This is the most affordable phone with Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Yes, it's the iQOO Neo 7 Pro and it's priced under Rs 35,000, which is absolutely bonkers. And you know what? To get to that pricing, iQOO doesn't make any compromises in the camera setup or the performance of the cameras. I know I've definitely got you on the hook right now, so let's talk a little bit more about the new iQOO Neo 7 Pro. If you're here for the very first time, I'm Ershad, you're watching Trakin Tech English, your place for detailed, incisive tech reviews. So the first thing you notice is that the industrial design hasn't changed, and you'd be like, why isn't iQOO trying to get a new design out? But here's what you need to note. If iQOO has to make a new ID, it has to put in money into research and design. This money can be better spent elsewhere, and that is actually the internals of the phone, which of course iQOO hasn't skimmed out on, which is a very good thing. Now we got the black and the orange variant of the phone. The black variant of the phone is all glass on the rear. I don't know what glass protection is being used, but on the front you do get short sensation UP protection. The orange variant on the other hand has a vegan leather back. That seems to be the trend in 2023. A lot of phones have launched with vegan leather back. You had the Motorola Edge 40, you have the Realme 11 Pro series, and of course now you've got this as well. Now this particular phone, but the orange color variant. The overall in-hand feel continues to be great. The glass is curved and it blends into a metal frame. But yeah, the camera module slightly juts out from the rear, so you get a little bit of a table wobble. That's one thing to note. And the other thing is that the USB Type-C port at the bottom is USB 2.0 speed and not USB 3.1. And it should have been at least USB 3.1 speeds, primarily because this is a gaming phone. It should have had that feature. And apart from that, you do not get a memory card slot. You get a slot with 2 dual nano SIM support. Also, if you're wondering, there's no IP rating or wireless charging, but there is an IR blaster. The display on the front is a large 6.78-inch AMOLED display with 120Hz refresh rate as well. It's a flat panel, it's got 10-bit color support, and it's also got a peak brightness of 1300 nits and support for HDR10 Plus as well. And HDR playback is available on both YouTube and Netflix. The 120Hz refresh rate, it's not a VRR or LTPO panel, so you do not get multiple variable refresh rates. You only get 60Hz or 120Hz. But you do get 2160Hz PWM dimming, so if you're somebody whose eyes are sensitive to flicker in low light when you're looking at high refresh rate AMOLED displays, then this solves that problem. Netflix and YouTube HDR performance is pretty good at controlling the highlights and bringing out details from the shadows, but it's a tad saturated where the skin tones don't look very natural, which is very surprising considering the fact that you do get a pro mode in the display, and when you're regularly using it, the delta E is very low, and you can actually trust it if you're going to be doing any sort of photo editing on it because the color science is very good. Overall, the quality of the display is pretty good. Also, since this is an AMOLED panel, you do get an in-display fingerprint scanner, which is fairly fast to unlock the phone, but it's placed slightly low. It should have been placed slightly higher for easier reach, but that's just a minor niggle. The haptic feedback on the X-axis linear motor is pretty good too. It's tight, it's precise, and more importantly, it also enables the 4D game vibration option that's available on the phone. I'm not a big fan of that 4D game vibration feature because it's a little too intense for me, but for people who like it, they can try it out. Now, to complete the multimedia experience, you've got a stereo speaker setup, you've got a speaker grill at the bottom, and the earpiece doubles up as the secondary speaker. Generally, what happens with the earpiece acting as a second speaker is that there is a lot of channel imbalance. It's not too perceptible in regular usage. The quality of the speaker is good enough. It's rich, it's detailed. Take a listen for yourself and let me know what you guys think. Alright, we've spoken about the design, the display, and the speakers, but the most important reason why you're here is for that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. And how does it perform? Well, apart from Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, you also do get LPDDR5 RAM, and you also get UFS 3.1 storage. Now, this phone is available in 2 variants, 8 128GB and 12 256GB. And when we tested out the synthetic benchmarks, Antutu and Geekbench, well, the iQOO Neo 7 Pro beats the OnePlus 11R, which has a similar configuration. Now, I also ran a CPU throttle test where we engaged 40 threads for 30 minutes, and we got a CPU stability score of 85%. Now, I also ran a 3D Mark wireless stress test, which I generally do for GPU stability, but I got a low score of 53%. On the flip side, the phone didn't lose too much battery, and more importantly, it reached a peak temperature of only 38 degrees, which was very good. Now, you know what I did? I also did a real-world Genshin Impact gameplay for 30 minutes. You know that game is the crisis of games for mobile phones. And what I noticed is that I got an average FPS of 57.8, which is pretty good. By the way, I played the game at medium settings, which is the default setting, and I pushed the FPS to 60 FPS. Now, in this gameplay test that I ran and the data that I captured, what I noticed is that the device temperature went up to only 38 degrees. This is similar to the wireless stress test score, right? So I'm guessing you might get better frame rates if iQOO were to let it get slightly hotter. Maybe, I don't know. But 38 degrees, it's good. It's basically very good gaming performance with slight throttling to ensure that the phone doesn't heat up too much. Now, to build around that gaming DNA, there's that extra video chip which enables game frame interpolation. Using game frame interpolation, iQOO basically inserts frames in between certain games. Therefore, if the game is running at 60 FPS, it can bump up to 90 FPS. Apart from that, you also get support for motion controls. You can assign specific commands like, maybe for example, if you want to jump in Call of Duty Mobile, then you can tilt left or tilt right, one of those things basically. And if you're somebody who uses the gyroscope a lot, there are some deep level settings within the phone itself. This was available on the iQOO Neo 7 as well. It continues to be available on the iQOO Neo 7 Pro. Oh yeah, by the way, also related to gaming is the fact that you get a touch sampling rate of 300 Hz, which goes up to 1200 Hz instant touch sampling rate. Basically, the touch response is extremely efficient. Of course, performance has been great on the iQOO Neo 7 Pro. And you also get a 5000 mAh battery with 120 watt fast charging. I haven't really drained the battery yet, so the battery tests are pending. I might do that in a review or a comparison later. So of course, subscribe to the channel for that. And now this 120 watt fast charger can charge your phone from 0 to 100 in about 20-25 minutes, which is very, very fast. Now to round up the network performance, you get Wi-Fi 6 support, Bluetooth 5.2. There's no NFC, so keep that in mind. And you also get support for N77 and N78 bands, which are very important for 5G networks, basically Airtel and Jio in India. Alright, at the start of the review, I had alluded to the fact that the cameras are actually surprisingly decent. Well, they are. So you get the 50MP Samsung GN5 sensor, an 8MP ultra-wide-angle camera, 2MP macro, and a 16MP camera on the front. The GN5 is actually a very, very good sensor, especially considering the price. Pictures that I took even in the overcast conditions that are there in Pune right now are detailed. They're rich in details. And what surprised me the most is the fact that the colors are very close to natural. I didn't expect that at all. Generally, I expect iQOO to make it oversaturated, but that's not really the case. And even the HDR performance is good. For example, take a look at this picture. You'll notice how this is a complex picture primarily because there is that tube light on the front and there is an overcast, scene outside the window. Both of that has been handled really well. Of course, I would have preferred slightly more detail from the shadows, which are looking slightly dark out here, but still this is very, very well done, iQOO. Generally, iQOO and Vivo's HDR performance has been good, which is true even for this phone. But one area where iQOO should have spent more time is that while you get good color performance when you're shooting regular pictures like landscapes, whatever else you want to shoot close-ups, but if you're shooting people, then the skin tones are not accurate because skin tones, of course, are difficult to shoot primarily because you've got the red pigmentation. So that's the problem that I noticed with the phone. The portrait performance is also so good. I just hope that the skin tones would have been better. Otherwise, the details are pretty good and even the HDR performance is pretty good, especially when you're shooting people against the light. I went into the testing for this device expecting the low light performance to be bad primarily because of the price. iQOO has priced it so well, but that's not really the case. Since you also get optical image stabilization, generally the pictures come out sharp. They are detailed in low light, especially with the night mode on. You can look at how well the scene has also been exposed. There was only one source of light and of course the TV being on, but this is a good job. Talking about OIS plus EIS is available when you're shooting 4K 60 FPS videos. So videos do look detailed, the HDR performance is decent, the mic quality is pretty okay too, and more importantly, the stabilization is very, very good. And in typical Vivo and iQOO style, you also get ultra stable video recording quality, which is available at 1080p 60 FPS. Apart from that, you also get a super night mode for shooting videos in extremely dark situations. This is surprisingly good. Now, if you're talking about selfie cameras, that selfie camera takes good pictures in daylight. It also takes good pictures in low light. The portrait selfies are good. The HDR selfies are pretty decent too. With the selfie camera, you actually get close to natural skin tones as opposed to the primary camera, which is where iQOO should have concentrated a little more, like I mentioned. Now, with the selfie cameras, you can shoot 1080p 30 FPS videos. And with the ultra-wide-angle camera also, you can shoot 1080p 30 FPS videos. With the ultra-wide-angle camera, iQOO has taken a little bit of a backseat, primarily because it's not very sharp. First thing, it's wide enough, but it's not very sharp. And more importantly, there's absolutely no color science parity between the primary camera and the ultra-wide-angle camera. It feels like the primary camera is a Sony camera and the ultra-wide-angle camera is some Fujifilm camera. Completely different color styles. Anyway, there's also 2 megapixel macro camera, which is mostly pointless. Overall, if you look at the camera performance, I'm genuinely surprised that it is good. And if my hunch is right, it might be taking better pictures than the OnePlus 11R and the OnePlus Nord 3 as well. But of course, we have to test that out. And for that, again, you have to subscribe to the channel. By the way, what I'll do is I'll add all the images and videos to a G Drive link, put it in the description. You guys go check it out and let me know what you think. Overall, with the iQOO Neo 7 Pro, what you can see is that the phone greatly benefits from the fact that Vivo and iQOO's camera tuning has always been so good, and it continues to be good on this phone as well. Now, talking about the software, you've got Android 13 with FunTouchOS 13 on top of it, and you get a promise of 2 years of software updates and 3 years of security updates. Another good thing I noticed about the phone is that there are no unnecessary bloatware apps. Of course, there's Netflix, there's Spotify, those kind of apps are present. Of course, there's LinkedIn as well, but those are apps you might use, and you can also uninstall them if you want. But there's no Moj, Josh, none of that. There are fewer pre-installed apps, which is a very good thing. There's hot apps and odd games on by default, but you can actually switch it off very easily. And you can also switch off the browser notifications. You should switch off the browser notifications to ensure that you do not get any untoward notifications. Overall, the experience has been refined, which is a good thing. I do like that fact. But FunTouchOS itself is not very refined, not my favorite software in terms of design. The design, the layout, the UI, everything doesn't feel very professional. There are some errors in texts as well, which makes it feel slightly not so premium. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. If you want a more premium experience, you might have to go with OxygenOS or Motorola's MyUX. Alright, these were just my first impressions of the phone, but the iQOO Neo 7 Pro is shaping out to be the best phone under rupees 40,000, let alone under rupees 35,000. In fact, if you ask me, I think that it might be a better phone than the OnePlus 11R as well. You know what? I'm itching to do a comparison soon, so I'm going to be doing that for sure. There are so many phones launching, it's nuts. I don't know what to do first. Should I do a comparison of the iQOO Neo 7 Pro versus the OnePlus 11R? Maybe iQOO Neo 7 Pro versus OnePlus Nord 3. Then of course there's the Moto Razr 40 Ultra, the Razr 40, then there's the Oppo Reno 10 Pro series. Oh my god, again, like, it's just madness. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, I'd love and appreciate it if you guys could give us a thumbs up. While you do that for us, I'll see you guys in the next one and start working on the next video. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.